It's not clear how that happens.
I don't know that it changes the amount of the warrant. I think it's indicated that it's paid from a
So
different
it's just payment methods.
checking account or account.
No worries. All right,
Right,
thank you for
right.
clarifying.
And just to clarify, my only concern is that we don't have a balance in the escrow right now, so it can't get paid right now.
Okay.
At least
Anything
that's my
else?
understanding.
All right. Okay, motion to approve 5C.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Janet, second.
Second.
Second by Therese, roll call.
Trustee Burson?
Aye.
Trustee Hassenberger?
Aye.
Trustee Benetti?
Aye.
Trustee Boatner?
Aye.
Trustee Millet?
Aye.
Trustee Muir?
Aye.
Okay, we'll move on to 5D.
And that's also
Therese?
mine. So, and I actually did speak today with our representative from SB Friedman. I let him know I was going to be pulling this as well, the resolution to add on. So I had asked earlier from our treasurer and from the accounting department to get sort of a status on the escrow. And I don't really have real good clarification about what the outstanding balance is. I received some information that made it look like the last statement that went out from April had a pretty significant dollar amount that I don't think is important for me to say right now. And then it was my understanding that there was going to be more added on. So I guess my point is, I think before we approve more payments, I think we need to get that up to date, because it is, at least from what I was sent, it's over 100,000. Does that sound right to you? Okay. Now, they said an invoice was sent out maybe in April. I don't know if some of that was paid or not. I asked today for them to give me an updated outstanding balance, and it didn't get here before I arrived just now.
Who did you ask for the balance?
I asked for Michelle and Russ.
Oh, okay.
So I guess my motion would be then to just kick this to the next meeting so we can get an idea of what's going on with the escrow, because of the fact that this is not supposed to be something that we're funding, and it should never be $100,000, over, if that's what it is.
Okay,
The
so,
number that I have is over that, so I don't know what the current number is, but I'd like to know what the current number is before we start approving more payments.
okay, so your motion is to move it to the next meeting?
Just move the approval of this to the next meeting. I have no issues with the approval of this for any other reason, other than just wanting to make sure we keep that escrow, up to date.
Janet, and then I'll go to Nick. Go ahead, Janet.
It's not at all clear to me that there are any problems with any of this invoicing, and I'm not comfortable with delaying vendor payments because of, we'll call it confusion, that seems almost certain to be resolved. And so if the objection is that we're not sure that we want to pay SB Friedman, well, we've agreed to do that. So, and if the objection is there's not money in the escrow, well, pretty sure there's going to be, right? So, I'm pretty comfortable with approving payments out of the escrow with good confidence that as we continue to work with our development partner on this project, that the escrow will be funded.
Dave?
Thank you. If I could offer a comment to these questions. First off, I don't know, and I'm not hearing tonight whether there's actually a negative or positive balance in the escrow account. Do we officially know, or is it just automatically being pointed to the developer that he's short?
Okay, I'll just tell you what I was given. So I asked the question, what the outstanding balance was. I received an old statement, which is why I then reached out again. But when I received the statement, there was no, clarifying that amount had been paid. And so that's why I asked, to clarify what the current outstanding balance is, because what I was told was that there's additional items that were added on and that they're working on an invoice. So this isn't, I'm not saying it's your fault. I'm not saying it's anyone's fault. What I'm saying is this has been kind of an ongoing issue of us, and that a lot of it's on our end, our own administrative end, to keep current on this stuff, to make sure that it doesn't get this far behind, if it is in fact this far behind. All I can go by is what they've sent me.
Okay.
And then if they don't respond to me when I ask for further information, then I can't, all I can do is go based on what I see here. And so I'm just asking for a week for us to then get this straightened out between our accounting department and to see where the problem is.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
there's no
And-
intent that we are not paying
Not at
or
all, and
funding
that's-
our
and that's
escrow, and
absolutely
I just
not
want to make sure
my-
it's
yeah.
clear that it sounds to me like we don't know whether it's on the village's side or the developer's side, or there's pending payments or approved invoices.
I
So
will even say right now, I
I'd-
believe it's on our side. I believe it's an internal thing that we've got to get a handle on, that we've got to make sure we are sending out the invoices, doing what we need to do on our end, so that you know what you're doing on your end. I'm not implying or making any statements whatsoever about you guys not paying or not being willing to pay. I don't think that's the case. But I'm just trying to draw attention to this, because this is something I've brought up numerous times, and, you know.
Thank you.
Prior to this. And just to clarify something that, to respond to something that trustee Burson said, to withhold payments to someone who's a party to the agreement that set up the escrow, I think is very different, because they are actually a party to the agreement. So it's on all of us, everyone, all of us that are part of this agreement, to be making sure that it's running properly.
Okay, so your motion is to
Just to postpone this.
postpone to the
Approval just to the
21st.
21st, and it will be approved on the 21st, because we'll have a week now to get Russ to explain what's going on, to find out what the balance is, to get a plan and see when that balance is going to be updated.
Okay, let me have Nick. Nick, do you want
Well,
to?
there's a motion on the floor.
Okay.
Is it a motion to table?
Just a motion to table for 1 week.
For
So
1
we
week.
would bring it back up on the 21st, and that gives us
Okay.
an opportunity to get those answers.
Do I have a second? Frank? No? Okay, do I have a second?
Can I get some clarification? This 5D is just an amendment to our agreement with SB Friedman. Yes, Friedman. So I don't see why it's a problem to amend the agreement. This isn't a payment to them. So I'm not exactly sure why we need to delay the amendment.
I'm drawing attention to the fact that we just aren't paying attention to this, and that we need to start paying attention, and we can't just keep saying yes to more costs when we're not, doing what we need to on our end to make sure that those costs get reimbursed. We've got to, if I'm believing the documents I received, we've got a significant amount sitting out there. It needs to be taken care of. That we just hired someone to, get our treasurer department up to speed.
Janet, go ahead.
Again, the entire notion presupposes that a couple of things I don't think, one or more of a couple of things I don't think are true. Either that we're being billed inappropriately, which I don't think is true.
I didn't say that.
Well, but just the concept, though.
I did not say that at all.
I
and
didn't
made it
say
very
you
clear
said
that-
it, but I think it sort of presupposes that. Or, in the alternative, that we're not getting reimbursed by the developer. And well, it may be true that the account is not where we want it to be. I think you've already indicated that that is likely because we're behind on our invoicing and reconciliation process with the developer. But yet, then the follow-on conversation sort of makes it sound like the developer could be somehow delinquent or something, and I don't think that's what you mean to say.
And that's not what I said, and
I d-
my words are very clear and
You-
very easy to understand.
Yeah, they are, but I don't think it landed the way you thought it did.
That's okay. It landed the way I thought it did
Right.
for me. You may have heard it differently.
And so at this particular moment, I have full faith in the willingness and ability of Shodine to fund the escrow, assuming properly submitted invoices. And if we are late in submitting our invoices, shame on us. But I would not want there to be any sort of a cloud over this idea that we're possibly not getting our expenses reimbursed. Because if we're not, I feel like it's probably because we're not communicating well enough with you, as you indicated, in fairness to Trustee Hussensberger. But then, I don't know, I mean, maybe I'm the only one that felt this way, but it felt like the follow-on conversation sort of took us into a place where it was a question of whether the developer was going to reimburse or was good for it or something. And I don't think I don't think we're anywhere near that place. I think we're in a good place when it comes to, funding the escrow and getting reimbursements. And if we're slightly off on our bookkeeping, then let's get that right. I mean, I think everyone wants to get that right. But I don't have a concern about the substance of any of it.
Okay, Frank?
So can I ask a question? I
Sure.
think I'm with trustee Muir on this one. Does the amendment have anything to do with this payment?
The amendment is to raise the maximum amount that SB Freeman would be authorized to attribute toward the scope of work that's included in the agreement. So it's not, it's authorizing them to perform the work up to that amount. It's not approving
So
a
it doesn't have
payment
anything to
tonight.
do with the payment that's due? or
Not this
anything like
warrant,
that,
just
right?
the obligation,
Not, right,
potential obligation.
future obligation under the agreement.
Okay, so postponing it a week doesn't change anything, right? I mean, we got to do it the right way going forward, no matter what, whether we pass it today or pass it a week from now.
But is it the wrong way?
Well, I'm just saying, I mean, it's not necessarily the wrong way, but to trustee Hoffensberger point, we're not following what we should be doing, and that's an internal problem that we need to correct. But we shouldn't be putting a vote on this off for another week. We're not accomplishing anything by doing that, right?
Okay.
Or am I misunderstanding? I
No,
guess I'm just looking for clarification.
I agree, yeah.
I agree.
Okay, anybody else? Nick?
So trustee Hoffensberger, you were saying that there is, you have information that leads you to believe there could be $100,000-ish of outstanding bills against the escrow?
That's the information I received today, correct.
And-
But it's old, so that's why I questioned it and asked him a follow-up question.
So I would agree with trustee Benetti and Muir that that wouldn't affect this agreement going forward, but I think we sent the right message to Administrator Pollock that this is a big, pretty significant concern and that we need to get it addressed and make sure that all of this escrow billing, that we get some good information.
Yeah, we'll look into it. I know Michelle and Russ were looking on putting together a new statement today, so.
I think that's the most important
Yeah,
thing,
they're-
that you
they're
got the
work- they're
message
working
and we
on
get
it
the
today.
info, and get it all squared away.
Go ahead. Let me have, Mark wants to.
I was
make a
just going to
comment.
say, there was no real handoff between my departure and Russ's and Austin Pollock's start. So I can discuss this with Austin a little bit and Russ and Bob on Thursday to make sure it's clarified for you, trustee Hoffensberger, and work with Dave to get this paid if there's an invoice that hasn't been paid. So I think you're addressing the issue and it needs to get rectified, but it's kind of the fact that I didn't do a handoff on this topic to Austin, so he's kind of caught flat-footed tonight, and that's on me, not him. And I'll help him get it fixed before next week with the developer.
Patrice, go ahead.
Okay, so just to be clear, none of this is on Austin at this point, because he is brand new, so, and none of it's not really on anyone, but in light of the comments made by both Nick and, well, from that entire side, that really the awareness has been brought up, that's good enough. I will withdraw my motion and we'll go ahead and pass it tonight. I just wanted to make sure that this is not being dropped, because as things keep, we're moving forward tonight with even more, stuff. We don't want to have a whole bunch of things kind of in the backlog that we've got to take care of. So I will withdraw my motion, and we'll go ahead and, someone can put it up for a motion to vote.
Okay, we'll drop 5D, and now I will accept a motion to move 5D.
So moved.
Move it ahead by Janet. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Kim. Any other discussion? Okay, roll call.
Trustee Burson?
Aye.
Trustee Muir?
Aye.
Trustee Benetti?
Aye.
Trustee Boatner?
Aye.
Trustee Hassenberger?
Aye.
Trustee Millet?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Very good. We'll move on to action items. 6A, motion to approve ordinance 26-38, amending the Village of Campton Hills zoning ordinance regarding planned unit developments, section 3.6, and definitions, section 14.2. I have a motion to move that.
So moved.
Moved by Janet. Do I have a second?
Second?
Nick seconds. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
Therese?
So I had a couple of questions. I guess I was a little concerned with Article 1B, where we're kind of taking away the kind of requirement that we follow our comp plan. I don't know why we're doing that. Why are we kind of lightening that and saying, we're actually putting here, it's non-binding, we know that, but then we also say that there's another spot in here that says, let's see here, policy statement, future. Adherence to the comp plan is not mandatory. I mean, it's kind of like, we went through a tremendous amount of work on that comp plan. I don't know why was this added? Does anyone know? Was anyone at the plan and zoning meeting?
Right, I was there, or we were there. This was at the suggestion of Mr. Brown. The discussion focused on that the comp plan is not a regularly updated document. It's infrequently updated, although it is updated. That there was a potential that there could be some intermittent changes to the zoning ordinance in between that could not 100% align with the comp plan, or that changes in the character of acceptable development could come to pass that did not exactly match the comp plan. And while the comp plan is a guide, we didn't want the threat of a developer or any person who's seeking to develop a parcel looking at the comp plan and saying, your comp plan says this, you have to follow it. So it's non-binding, although it is a guide, but there wanted to be some flexibility to vary somewhat from it, but not completely ignore it.
I kind of feel like we have that. I mean, I think, because it's not a binding document, I don't really know why that's necessary. I feel like it kind of diminishes, given that someone coming in and seeing our comp plan can come to us anyway and ask for a variance. We're doing it 3 times tonight on other things.
Yeah.
Well, we've got 3 items. So I guess that's, I don't know. I don't know why, I don't really get, it seems to me it diminishes the importance of the comp plan. So I wouldn't have done it, but there is a paragraph, though, that actually needs to be fixed. So on paragraph 1, Article 1G2, you weren't trying to eliminate submitting a concept plan altogether, right? You were just saying it doesn't necessarily need to be submitted prior to submitting a formal application? As it says, it used to say that before submitting a formal application for a planned unit development, the applicant must present a concept plan. Now it says is encouraged to present a concept plan
Right.
before the Planning and Zoning Commission for the purpose of obtaining information and guidance prior to the formal application. Then it says the concept plan will be presented to a public meeting. So you kind of eliminate you start with now you no longer have to submit it. It's encouraged to be submitted, but then you go to, well, we're going to have a public meeting on it. At some point, it needs to be submitted. It just doesn't need to be submitted prior to the formal application. So I just think that needs to be reworded just a little bit.
Right, so the text amendments as presented were prepared by Jim Brown and brought to the PZC under a public hearing. So they were reviewed by the commission and then put into ordinance format. But I know that that suggestion came from experience with reviewing the most recent PUD. And I think Mr. Brown felt that the code or the ordinance as it existed may have been a bit cumbersome as to the way that the process proceeded, because there was encouragement to come and present before the board, as Mr. Petzel did, on an informal basis, but it wasn't exactly codified in the zoning ordinance that way. So Mr. Brown wanted to make some changes to make it a little bit more clear in the ordinance, but also say that it was not 100% required.
Oh, it's not?
Right.
So only if you submit it, we'll have a meeting on it?
Well, that it's not required before the public body. So it's not required before the PZC or by the village board, but it's still encouraged. So rather than going directly to the PZC with a preliminary PUD proposal, and having gone through an application and a developer's spending money on professional fees, and ramping up, I think Jim felt it was more appropriate to encourage developers to take that initial step, to have these things reviewed by staff, unless the village board wanted to review them, which it has that right to do, before that whole process started.
Okay, so it's not mandatory, but if they do present one, we will have a public meeting. So I would just add language in front of there that says, in the event that you submit a concept plan, it will be presented to a public meeting. Add something that makes it, because this is confusing, I don't think it makes it sound like it's something that you're expecting people to submit. It's like it's not really optional, it could be worded better. I could submit, maybe a change to Jim and have him just look at it so that it reads better. Just to make that clear.
Okay. Are you done, Therese?
No, I'm
No?
not sure. Hold on. Oh, then there was just,
What's up?
apparently, is something, Janet?
No. Are you fin?
No.
All right,
You have 3
finish.
minutes, but we're well over that now.
Does anyone have an objection to me continuing?
I actually do, because if you have drafting considerations, those should have been brought to the village attorney and to the board before the meeting.
Oh, is that
So
your
we do
decision,
not
Jen, or
draft
mine? That's-
documents in the middle of the meeting.
Sure we do.
That is absolutely my consideration.
Okay.
So
Well, I'm
if
gonna
there's
go ahead and
anyone
finish.
here, if there's anyone that thinks that we should be drafting documents in the middle of a board meeting, raise your hand, but I don't think we're going to have any people do it, right? So raise your hand if you think we should be drafting documents or redrafting documents in the middle of a meeting, because we had adequate opportunity to do that well before this meeting started. So hands up or down.
I would suggest, James Brown comes in every Wednesday now. What about if you stop and you talk to James?
Fine.
And then we can
happy to do that.
we can work it out that way.
I'm looking at an agenda. This is something we've done 1,000 times. There's an item on an agenda. We get a copy of it on Friday. I looked at it between Friday and today. I had these comments. And I'm happy to send them to James, but it's not
Okay.
inappropriate for me to ask these questions now.
All
It may
right.
be inconvenient for one trustee, but that doesn't matter. There's other typos. I guess I will address those later.
You can talk to Jim about those, too.
Okay?
Good?
What is this line?
Yeah, let me take Mike first, and then I'll get over to Kim.
Based on other discussions, would we be comfortable putting this at a threshold of 40 acres and 40 dwelling units instead of 75 and 75? I
Yes.
mean, when you look at the development of, or the subdivision of land from the Northwest Ordinance, which we are subject to, I mean, a quarter section of a quarter section ends up being 40 acres, and that's kind of the normal cut, and I think we got a lot of space there, and I like the idea. We were debating, we believe this is increasing to 50% from 40% for open space, so that's confirmed.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking maybe we could lower that threshold. It kind of sends a good message, I think.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Yeah, Mike and I had talked about that. I think that's a great idea.
Where is he talking about?
He's, the
So where
number.
it currently says, anywhere in the, where it says 75 acres, make that 40 acres.
Okay.
And then 75 dwelling units, make that 40 dwelling units.
Okay.
Yeah, since we're so pro-open land, too, I think it fits, definitely is a better fit.
Yeah, that subject came up after the ordinance was put together, and I think there was even discussion with the PZC chair too as well afterward, that he felt that would be appropriate as
But
well.
even as written, we're kind of bearing the lead in
Right.
increasing the
Right.
open space percentage.
Okay, and you
Right.
gave me a second on that? No? Could I have a second on that? Nick? Okay.
There were a couple other, after the
Hold on.
ordinance was
No, hold
prepared,
on,
there
Ken.
were a couple other typos that we fixed that I was intending to send to the clerk, that we'll fix as well. It was, I think, 4C and D were separated, and should be one paragraph, so that'll change the numbering, so we'll fix that. But I think if there are additional suggestions to change, we can speak with Mr. Brown after the meeting too. And he can come up with alternate language if that's the consensus of the board.
All right, Kim, go ahead. You've been waiting.
Yeah, so if we're gonna make some different changes on this, should we be tabling it?
It would be if you're not going to take action on it tonight, yes.
That was just my question.
So,
I think you have a motion and a second on the floor, so
mhm.
a motion to table would supersede that.
Then I'll make a
Okay.
motion to table.
Okay.
Till next
Therese.
week.
All right, and
Make some
do I have a
changes.
second?
I'd second.
Who's that, Mike? Okay, all right. Roll call?
Okay, can we have?
Oh, go ahead,
so
Frank, I'm
if
sorry.
we have other comments and we
Mhm.
table it now, are we just pushing this off for next week to have all our comments again? I mean, is it worth at least discussing any other changes?
I think if you have
I'll
other
withdraw my
questions-
second.
Yeah, I would make them tonight, that way Jim
That way,
can-
we're not doing this all over again next week. You know, let's talk
Yeah.
about all the issues tonight, and then we can table it for the vote, if everybody's okay with that.
Mhm. You know, and something I didn't mention is Ralph, I did talk with Ralph, the chairman of Planning and Zoning, and he was very much in favor of what Mike is suggesting. Mike and I had talked about this, and I think it's a great move. I think it should be 40 acres or 40 dwelling units. So, all right, so you want us to,
Yeah, I just, to
Mhm.
continue discussion about topics, you
Mhm.
know, if anybody else had any additional changes, so we get those all out of the way tonight.
Okay.
And I don't, just so everybody knows.
okay,
but-
Nick, no, okay, Kim? All right. No other comments? Get a roll call?
I'll resume my second. I don't know.
Okay. All right, we set to vote?
Yes,
Yep.
on the motion
Okay.
table.
Motion to table, trustee Hassenberger?
Yeah, aye.
Trustee Millet?
Aye.
Trustee Benetti?
Aye.
Trustee Boatner?
Aye.
Trustee Burson?
I guess.
Trustee Meir?
Aye.
Okay. All right, moving on to 6B, motion to approve ordinance 26-36, granting a variance from the accessory structure setback requirements of the Village of Campton Hills zoning ordinance of 2024.
I would so move.
Okay,
Second.
this is on
Circle.
Circle Drive,
Right.
yeah.
Have a question.
All right, go ahead.
Generally we get a diagram or a plat. I did not see one for this.
Okay.
It's sort of clear. I can kind of follow it by the verbiage of the minutes from the Plan Commission, but
Mhm.
it might be nice to have a visual with it, but
This one, I don't believe had one. Let me see if the PZC.
And I mean, for the public, the hardship factors seem to be met. There's a special management area in the back, floodplain in the back, you can't have in the back, and,
Mhm.
so, okay, fair.
I just want to check to see if there was an exhibit in the PZC meeting.
I think there was.
I thought
I
there
attended
was. I
that
don't know why
meeting.
it didn't get attached to this one.
Was there? Yeah.
I thought
Yeah.
Mhm.
There
The
there
one
was
for Brown's
definitely
in
one
there.
for the other one.
Mhm. You don't have it?
Um,
Oh,
It, there,
mhm.
But you know,
There-
there
there was-
actually might not be, because I think they made the change from going from a foot or two from the
Right.
lot line to, they pushed it off to like 3 feet or 5
I
feet or
think you're
something
right,
like that.
yeah.
So there probably isn't one that has the actual
Mhm.
change that they
right,
made.
there was a depiction that showed, as trustee Benetti said, the existing garage sitting just near the lot line. There wasn't an actual depiction as to what this variation would result in.
All right. Oh, Janet.
My opinion is that the entire nature of this variance is completely, fully, and entirely misrepresented. I don't think that this variance has anything at all to do with hardship on the land or ability or inability to build a structure in a particular place at all. I don't think that has anything to do with the topic at hand. This is a long-running dispute between two neighbors over the noise that ducks make. And, I mean, am I wrong? I
No,
think
you're
everybody
not.
involved
No, you're
knows
not
that
wrong.
this is the case.
Mhm.
And so this is apparently the last-ditch effort on the part of this guy the neighbor of the duck guy to ameliorate the sound of his neighbor's ducks, that he's going to build a big-ass structure without regard to the setbacks. He's going to claim that there is a hardship on the land. He's going to claim that there is a flood area or something, but that doesn't have anything to do with anything. All he really wants to do is build something to block the sound of his neighbor's ducks. We've been through this for a long time as a village. Neither of these people are new to us. And so I have no interest
24 by
in solving
37.
these people's duck problems with a variance. You know, I'm not necessarily insensitive to the duck problems. I'm just not willing to solve the duck problems with a freaking variance. If you have duck problems, then solve it a different way. If the ducks are in fact a nuisance, then they are a nuisance, and we have a solution to that. If they are not a nuisance, they are not a nuisance, and the guy who doesn't like the sound of it can just suck it. So I am not interested in a variance for purposes of making the guy who doesn't like the ducks happier with the ducks. I can't even imagine that it could possibly ever be a good thing to say, we'll let the guy build a building that it would otherwise never ever be allowed solely for purposes of blocking the sound of the ducks. So let's get perspective on what is going on here. This entire application makes no sense to me. I have no idea why the Plan Commission approved it, and I'm about a 10 times no on this.
Yeah, let me just add, so the accessory structure would be 24 by 37, and from what I understand, they did want to either put an addition on their garage, which is on the duck side, or do an accessory structure. So I think it's something they always had planned on doing.
Not
Ducks or no
specified,
ducks.
and also, no commitment to actually build it. So what's the timeline on this? Do you get a variance to build this and then get to build it sometime between now and when you die? Or do you have to build it this year, next year? Like, when do you have to build it? Because my understanding, and I could be wrong, but my understanding is that this property owner has no intention or ability to build said structure. So why are we even talking about it? Just because he has a duck problem?
Go ahead, Therese.
Is anyone familiar with, was that issue, the whole duck situation brought up to the P&Z Commission?
Oh, it's been going on
It's
for a
been
long
going
time.
on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm assuming they weighed all that and weighed the issues and still said this was okay, because it sounds like they had a 4-0 vote. So, I mean, we don't really have anyone here that can either confirm or dispute, you know, the accusations that were just made against these people. So I think short of that, either we approve it because the P&Z Commission sounds like was aware of those issues, and they went ahead and approved it, or we say we want to, you know, look into that again, but I don't know.
Frank?
I think you all know I was personally involved in this whole thing, and the concerns are legitimate.
Yeah.
There is a big oak that prevented him from pushing back. There is a floodplain, and the opposite side of his house would have to be totally regraded, and that's also partly in a floodplain. So to put the structure there was justified
you're right.
from that perspective.
Yeah.
The neighbor also didn't care. I went out and negotiated peace between the two neighbors. The neighbor doesn't care. His building doesn't even have running water or, you know, he has a porta potty. His kids use it to work out and do all sorts of things. So it's not even like somebody lives next door. And it created peace between two neighbors. The commission understood what all the issues were, including the challenges with the property. So with all due respect, I think we should pass it.
Okay, yeah. I know that in the back of that lot, you're correct, there's a creek that basically runs right through the back. So there's really not much room to put an accessory building or another garage, if that was the choice of theirs. But, okay, anything else? All right, we got a first and a second. Okay, roll call.
Trustee Millet?
Aye.
Trustee Benetti?
Aye.
Trustee Boatner?
Aye.
Trustee Burson?
Nay.
Trustee Hafenberger,
Aye.
Trustee Muir.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Good discussion. 6C, motion to approve ordinance 26-37, granting a variance from Table 8.1 of the Village of Campton Hills zoning ordinance of 2024 to permit a detached garage in a front yard, 5 North 476 Brown Road, PZC case number 26-7. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Janet. Do I have a second?
Second.
Was that Nick? Okay, second by Nick. Discussion. Go ahead, Nick.
It's a general comment, I suppose, and for all detached structures, but I'm curious if it's considered, so a project like this, putting a garage in the front yard, does the PZC ever do any landscape considerations, like as a condition, X landscaping needs to be done between the building and the road? I mean, is that ever a consideration?
I mean, generally, it could be.
Could be.
I know there have been situations, we had one on, I think it was Brown Road as well, if I'm not mistaken, where a gentleman came in for putting an accessory structure in the front yard, had an inability to put it anywhere near the rear yard because of a floodplain. And there was discussion from some of the commissioners as to how it would be shielded from the road. And in that instance, it was unlikely you could see the structure because of some trees that were already in the area. I don't recall specifically with this property, but I know there have definitely been commissioners in the past that have raised that issue. And it's within their purview, it's within your purview to add a condition, or for them to recommend a condition upon approval.
Yeah, can I add, I'm going to add to that, Nick. Obviously, it's like 2 doors down from where I live. This property is right on the curve on Brown Road, and it's an old, virtually like almost an old cabin that's been there a long time. That is, actually, it's a couple owns the house now. And right behind them, it is very, very wet. The land drops off, and it's a very, very wet area. There's kind of a slough that collects back there, like from all the rainwater. So from what I understand, the wife is pregnant. They want to build something in their garage, like a living area, at some point, not yet. But that would take away access to the garage. So this is what their other choice was. And that's about the only place they could put it. There's really no other place. And I will say, there are several trees. There's a lot of tree coverage there. I don't think anybody would even see it. So I'm not pushing for it, but that's the facts. So, Janet, go ahead.
I think it's a good general question that Trustee Boatner brought up. It may, even if we had such a provision, then we would limit it, based on existing tree cover or something. So I'm not concerned that if we had a provision like that, that it would hamper the ability of these people, in their project. But I think it's a good question because we certainly expect this in commercial properties, right? We have a fairly extensive code about how greenery should be, distributed around your commercial property. And so if the property is leading, so to speak, with the garage, then I think it's a fair question, as to what your plan is. If there happen to be trees that help in this case, then great, and maybe it doesn't matter for this project, but these projects will come up in the future, and I think we should have some guidelines for it.
Yeah, and the existing garage is attached to the home. It's definitely part of the house. So, okay, Nick?
Curveball, but kind of following up what Janet, Trustee Burson had just said, you know, as our zoning code has been more generous with detached building sizes on your property, and being conscientious of neighbors, trying to preserve that right to be able to build these larger buildings, having some sort of a landscape requirement going along with detached structures could really go a long way to preserve and make sure that that generous square footage that we're able to build right now with our zoning code and for our detached structures, it could kind of preserve that and make sure, you know,
It's a
that
good
we're taking
idea.
care of our neighbors and, but certainly, it's good to know that in the front yard, this is a real wooded lot. It's, I know what house you're talking about, it's the log cabin.
Yeah, it's right on the
Um,
curve, yeah,
Yeah, so there'll be plenty of coverage right there.
yeah. Anything else? Okay, roll call.
Trustee Burson?
Aye.
Trustee Boatner?
Aye.
Trustee Benetti?
Aye.
Trustee Hafzenberger?
Aye.
Trustee Millet?
Aye.
Trustee Muir?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. All right, discussion items. A, review of LaFox of Campton Hills redevelopment agreement. And I think we're gonna have a little presentation by Mark and Jeff.
Yes.
And I think Scott,
Yeah,
you'll be part
and
of
Scott
it.
would be the
Mhm.
IGA with KDOT.
Okay,
Which,
got it.
which would you like to go first? IGA, KDOT's a little cleaner and get Scott?
Oh, if you want, we
It-
can take B first, yeah.
And we've had further discussions with KDOT.
Mhm.
And as you are all aware, we have a date of 21 July for the Transportation Committee of the county. And they have the document, and they've said if we make and demand any further changes, that will start from scratch and be about 90 days from completion again. That being said, they were adamant they were not going to increase the road cost share to us. They're going to offer us the opportunity to get 225 or 235, whatever the low bid that they're putting LaFox Road from Bunker down to Kesslinger out for bid for construction this fall. They had that set up when it was the IGA with Blackberry Township to take jurisdictional control. So they're asking us to step in the same terms. And we got, the only change we got on this week was that they will agree to let us defer and ask them not to pave it with a just grind and overlay. And they will not do a full depth and reclamation that we requested, Trustee Burson. They're quite adamant about that. So we have the opportunity to take the dollars that they were going to contract for, and they will not pave this fall, because if we do this project and get it approved, you're going to be, a lot of work will be needed to reconstruct or repave it after there's multiple curb cuts and road openings to have water and sewer lines and for the
Yeah.
development as well as individual property owners in that area. So it would make sense for us to take their offer of whatever the low bid comes in, they will offer us, and it'll be written at 225 or 235 approximately dollars. And then we would just be subject to this being included in the TIF district, that we could use some TIF dollars in the future to make the full improvements that will be necessary to that stretch of road after the development occurs and many trucks drive on it. And as I said, cuts in the road, openings to the asphalt will occur in the next 5 years at a great number. So it makes sense for us to defer it, and they agreed to that. Our other requests on cost share of the future traffic lights, if there are any, on the different legs, there's no traffic light projected. It's not in the warrants or in their code. So asking them to amend their county process to take one of the county road legs, like on Kesslinger, that they would have a cost share of 50% if there was a light at, say, Kesslinger and LaFox. They said, no, your development that you're going to approve, Village, is causing the need in the future for said light, because your future residents there may not like the fact that they have a delay to get turned left or right out of LaFox Road. So that is a village-caused problem for future residents asking us for a light. And if there's a light installed, you, as the village, in our eyes, and what we're telling our county board members, it's a village issue. So we were 0 for 2 on those, but we got a deferment to have it our option on paving the road this fall. And we made some other edits, as you know, that Scott and I asked for on June 18th. And they gave us some of those that we discussed a couple meetings back, that they would make some slight modifications on those. And so I would like to say that we were more successful than we were, but we got the one, which is a pretty big victory, to not have them pave it this fall, just to damage it over the next 3 to 5 years as there's many trucks and openings made in that road.
Yeah, it was a good meeting.
I mean, it's, hey, the time is on their side, not ours. And they understand that, and they know that they're giving us other elements. One additional item that will cost the developer money is a bike path from LaFox along the railroad tracks, not right up against it, on county-owned property. They want a connecting bike path. And that was always in Exhibit E. We just didn't clarify that to the developer until after the meeting. And that is also a condition that they have on approving this, and they're going to recommend that on the 21st.
Be a good move.
Yep. Did I miss anything, Austin?
No, I just wanted to add that the county, you know, they talked about giving us this 225 for the roadway. We just haven't seen it in writing yet, so.
They're going to write that
Yeah, we
into the
haven't
agreement.
gotten their paperwork yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just met with them this past week.
Yep.
Go ahead, Janet.
So how does this 225 on LaFox compare to the cost of mill and fill versus the cost of full depth reclamation on that road?
1%.
It's about not even half of
Okay.
what a full depth reclamation cost would be. It's grind and overlay, so 235, if we use the numbers that we're using, say on Danker Road, that we're doing the full depth,
Right?
it would be closer to 550, 600,000,
So,
right?
if we assume an unfortunate future in which the rail closing is closed,
Yes.
not by our choice, but the rail closing is closed, then we're not just dealing with the cost of these roads up to the crossing. We have hammerheads on both sides that we're going to be responsible for. If I'm not mistaken, in at least some of those areas, we don't own the land, right, that they would sit on.
It's easy, we can solve it on the north side of the track if that eventuality, because the
With the
developer.
cooperation of the railroad.
Well, with the cooperation of the developer, because he has a parcel that fronts very close to where a hammerhead could be done. They could move the road, the second road into that east side of LaFox development down 100 meters and accommodate, so there wouldn't need to be a hammerhead there. The south side, you're right, there's an issue, and we talked about the easements, and they're
And
going to give us
there's
what
commercial
easements.
properties on both sides of the
Yep.
street.
Yep.
They're not going anywhere without
Right.
compensation. And so, from the county's perspective, in working all this through with us, the closure of the railroad crossing has not really been factored in, is that correct?
It's a known future probability, but it's, when I requested to have full easements, not prescriptive easements, they said, no.
Sure.
You're going to get what we have, which
Sure,
is
of
a
course.
prescriptive
But just in
easement.
terms of dollars and cents, it's going to cost more with the railroad crossing closed, right? I mean,
Potentially, or the ICC could put a condition on the Union Pacific to create the necessary safety for the closure, and we would make that request as a village, I'm sure, at a future ICC hearing. And within the scope of the railroad's ownership, they'd be on the hook to do that. And that's a fair answer by the county and my experience with the railroad, and I see Mike could probably add to that.
great, thank you.
All right.
So
And is there any other questions? I know, Mike, you were possibly looking at this a little closer to,
well,
Scott's here to answer too.
the possibility for traffic signal, Scott, why don't you teach that guy how to speak? Traffic signal there is, that's just ridiculous. I mean, there's no traffic that's going to be generated that's not there now from our development that's going to trigger anything like that. So that's, I don't want to say it's a red herring, but that just seems like a normal CYA stuff coming out of the county. But to the point of, could we do something reasonable with 250 on the road that's there now? Yeah, probably, especially if it does become, 275, especially if it does become closed, then there's less concern about how much structure we need on the base of that thing anyway, because it's just houses and a semi, yeah. So, yeah, you wouldn't need any more. So I think that's fine. And then the rest of it for the county playing, I don't know, hardball, I guess. Maybe that's not the right phrase, because they have standards, and it's their standards. And they don't have any reason to change them for us or anybody else. But I know previous experiences here and elsewhere that what we say now, with a different county engineer in 5 years and a different administration in 5 years, it may not still be exactly the same.
Right.
So, and since we're talking about how long the build-out's going to be on the development, I think for right now, we're fine. I would say we're fine with this going forward. And then, whatever happens first, whether UP closes first or you get to the point where you need a connection first or something like that, that would be the next time to have a discussion with who's ever over there at KDOT at that point and say, okay, now that the reality is here, let's have a discussion.
That's a very good point about the whole Bunker Road bypass. That will change the traffic flow considerably and reduce it. And if the railroad is closed, exactly the point of why not having a full depth reclamation expense, we're not hampered that badly.
We're okay with that.
We're-
Assuming,
it's-
assuming we can get the ends.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, that would make sense. Our not objecting to it from ICC standpoint is just telling the UP has to pay for, convey, facilitate, whatever the right term is at the time.
For traffic
Either
safety.
hammerheads and/or whatever. I mean, we could talk to the owners there too. The one on the south, you may not need a hammerhead because those essentially, there's drive aprons there. But on the north, yeah, we'd have to figure something out because it's a house, 2 houses.
Okay. Anything else?
I'd ask for a consensus to move it to action for the 21st.
Well, I was going to point out timeline. So the KDOT said that they would make all efforts they could to get it on the 7/21 agenda for approval, or for review by committee. But we didn't leave the meeting with 100% confirmation that it was going to be on that meeting. We'll probably know in the next day or two if they can give us back a copy of the agreement with the changes that were discussed at the meeting. If that's the case, at least my understanding was that if they bring something to committee, it's not typically anticipated that it's going to change much or at all after it gets to the committee. They like to have things set. So there is a chance that if we get the agreement back in the next day or so, we will know what goes on committee as long as we're comfortable with the term. And Scott has a chance to look at it as well, and then we can try and get it on 7/21 for approval. If for whatever reason it comes out of committee with suggestions on changes, we can bring it back to the village board to approve an amended copy or before it's executed, something like that.
And, yeah, and that's good to say that because they go during the day And if
Right.
they do make an addition or a change, we'll be able to tell you that on 7 PM Tuesday, the 21st.
Right.
Because they do their meeting mid-morning.
If they give us at a final agreement that the internal working group's comfortable with, we can put it on the agenda, and I can have a condition on the resolution that it's subject to approval by KDOT as well prior to execution. And then if anything major changes, we'll bring it back to the board's attention.
Treese? Mhm.
So we'll be getting a new draft, soon?
Will we hear
Sometime,
back from
we
them?
think?
As soon as we get it from
As soon as we get it,
KDOT,
you'll
We
let
have
us
to
know.
get it from
Yes.
KDOT, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Just knowing that we may hear on 7/21 that they've made other changes and we may
it's,
postpone.
it's doubtful they make
Okay.
changes at that. They do that at their first reading of the Transportation Committee, and the second one usually is pretty perfunctory.
Okay,
In our case, it won't be because we've asked for set changes, multitude of things that they did say yes to, and then this issue of us having the right to defer paving, they'll bid it, we'll defer and just get what their low qualified bidder number is. We estimate on their end that it's 225, and Scott believes that to be a realistic number.
All right. Everybody good with that? All right, we'll move to the RDA for discussion.
And there, I'd like Carmen to go first, because we've talked about some edits that having been made about the shall, changing it to may, and
Oh, yeah.
the developer is very comfortable with that, and that whole paragraph, and that whereas, Carmen, if you could kind of, how they tie together, that,
Right, so the version of the agreement that I circulated, or invited for any discussion or comments from the board, has language that indicates, both in the whereas statements and in the body of the agreement regarding a property tax referendum. At the time that it was drafted, the direction that I was given was to draft it that way, but there's been additional discussion with the developer and we've actually, I prepared some alternate language that would be in a final version that shifts the focus from the village committing to that practice, and in fact, that the village will put forth best efforts or may consider placing a referendum on the ballot before the residents for the initiation of a property tax referendum. A referendum for the initiation of a property tax. And then maintaining the similar language that the village does not guarantee any outcome of any such referendum, and it does not commit the village to putting that referendum on the ballot. So there'll be changes in the whereas statements to reflect that, and then also in the governing sections of the RDA regarding that discussion. So that
And
will
the-
be in a further draft. It was just prepared today, a
Yep.
couple of hours ago.
and the key element for the public that is not as read in as everyone at the dais is that the Greenfield TIF, and I have Jeff to correct me and add to what I say next, there is a requirement under the TIF statute that a village or city in the state of Illinois that does not have a property tax must tithe, present 10% of an increment of the said development area annually for the length of the TIF. So, we didn't catch that as a staff, and I apologize for that mistake, and we found it out early April. The developer agreed to take that problem on and own it, and it says that now in this agreement. You know, we had some meetings to discuss that 10%, and the alternative being if the village would look at a property tax referendum, de minimis as it may be, for instance, the property tax for just a referendum for police pension, for an example, not a guarantee. It's just an example. And that amount then would forego the 10% of whatever each year the increment that's been created from going from farmland tax bill to 10 houses, 50 houses, 100, 900, type homes. So that increment in the first years is $35,000 that the developer will pay. If the village never passed the property tax, the developer has taken the risk in this agreement that he will pay almost $10 million in covering our 10% if we don't ever even put, it doesn't require you or a future board, because you can't bind a future board to put a referendum question to the public, to the taxpayers, for a vote. So the risk is on the developer to pay the village's contribution, the way this document now reads. And it will change from shall do a referendum to may, and not bind this board or a future board to do a referendum question. So the risk is on the developer. The other change we made was to take the $42 million ceiling that was in earlier drafts to change it to $54 million of eligible expenses that the developer could foreseeably ask for payment on. So that's how the change has been made to this document from earlier versions that we had in May and June. And I can have Jeff or anybody on our team, or Mr. Patzel for Shodine, answer any other questions you have, but I don't want to drone on other aspects that we've already covered. So I'd open it to questions. And Jeff, is there anything else you'd like to?
I just have one comment. You said greenfield TIF, so any TIF in the state of Illinois for a community that does not levy a local property tax is required to contribute 10% of the annual deposits into the special tax allocation fund. And that figure is generally just considered by the legislature as to what a municipal share typically is of your tax bill. It's not an exact figure, but that's what the legislature decided. A lot of communities who do not have local property tax, they make the deposit. But TIFs typically that are not residential in nature are revenue generators for a community. So if you're building a large retail development or commercial development, you're getting a lot of other taxes, utility taxes, sales taxes. So you can eat that 10%. This type of development is not a revenue generator for the village. It's not what it's meant to be. So this was the arrangement that the developer has agreed to.
Hold on, Janet. Dave, did you want to add anything or no? Okay, go ahead, Janet.
I feel like it is important to distinguish between a property tax that is intended to raise revenue and a property tax that is a checkbox, right? Because in this scenario, without regard to whether you made the mistake or Dave didn't catch it or Jeff didn't catch it or whoever didn't, doesn't really matter. What matters is that the state of Illinois has put us in a little bit of a trick bag here, right? And so the state of Illinois has said that because of the way some other communities have behaved that are not you, are not the picture of you, because the way they have behaved, we have this expectation. Those other communities had lots of various different sources of revenue, and so paying this sort of like it's almost a tax within a tax, right? So paying this increment fee that they had to pay. Did they like it? Almost certainly not. Could they afford it within the business model they were running while they were building Woodfield, or some similar, circumstance? Yeah, they absolutely could. So we're not there. That's not our circumstance. And so the way that we need to look at this, I think, is that the state of Illinois has constructed this game in which somehow or another you have to be able to check this box. You don't have to raise any significant amount of money, but you have to be able to say that you're levying your people somehow, some way, no matter whatever the smallest amount that you can legally get away with, but you have to be able to say that you check that box. And if you don't, then there's a significant cost to be paid. Now, we are very fortunate that our developer has responded to pressure from the community that said, look, we're not investors, right? We're not investors. We're minding the interest of our residents. And so you might think it's a good investment, but we're not prepared to make that evaluation. And so Shodine has said, well, all right, we'll step up and we'll suck up some of this. Well, great, that helps us a lot. But here's the thing, is that there's a total deal value. In any deal, there's a total deal value. And so if Dave says, I'll eat $10 million, I'm really happy. Great, high five. I'm glad you're willing to eat $10 million. But that means that there's $10 million you don't have for some other thing, right? And so the way I look at it is not so much whether Shodine is paying the $10 million or whether we're paying the $10 million. It's the fact that the state of Illinois wants the $10 million to be paid. And so it doesn't really matter to me who pays it. No matter who pays it, it's money out of the deal, right? It's just money out of the deal. And so we are smarter deal makers if we find a way to not pay the $10 million. Because if we don't make Dave pay $10 million, then that either means we get to go to Dave and say, give me some fraction of $10 million of stuff, right? Or it means there's some other fraction of $10 million opportunity that's not even been discussed yet. So I would much rather take the $10 million pressure off the developer. I'm really happy that you're willing to help us with that, because we would say no to you otherwise, right? We would say no. So really, really happy that you're willing to do that. But overall, as partners in the deal, we're better partners if we can help make the $10 million go away, right? And so it's not a problem for us to solve tonight. It's not even probably a problem for this board to solve, but it's going to be a problem for this community to solve, because if we can find a way to cross this teeny tiny Rubicon, and say, all right, we're willing to pass the tiniest possible micro property tax that checks that box, it saves $10 million out of the deal. It's not a question of whether it saves money for Dave or whether it saves money for us. It's a question of whether, because otherwise that money's just gone. That money just goes away. It goes away for him and it goes away for us.
And just for clarity, it's a total of almost 14 million if there's no property tax. The other alternative is that the village would go to the state senator and state rep to ask for an amendment to the TIF Act.
Which we should
to
do.
exclude.
We
and
must
we
do
should,
that.
We should do that.
I mean, we have to do that.
Yes.
But it's a low percentage move.
Yes, and then, so the other piece of the 14, the village is almost committing, if we never succeed in a TIF amendment by the state legislature and the governor signs, we have 10,500 in our annexation agreement. We are also committing to go to 6,000 per building plan review and permits. So that is the money that the village is contributing to get the full 14 million. So there's about
I mean, so there's a
4
plan that
million.
works.
There's 4 million reasons why a future board may consider, if we're unsuccessful at the State House with an amendment, to incentivize the village to do a de minimis of some kind, or my example, the police pension, because that would address some of our structural deficit, and that amount is around $280,000 currently, and that could be $50 to $100 today's money of a property tax bill, and that would suffice. That, I'm not saying that's what you should do. It's a consideration of an example. But yes, the village does have money involved too. Skin in the game, as Trustee Boatner said. So.
Trees first, then Mike, okay.
So I think there was some discussion earlier about doing this small property tax, and I'm just going to be perfectly honest up front that I am very anti any tax, but I do want to ask this question just so I understand. So if we did do a small tax, like you were saying, for the police pension fund, but do we have a legal opinion on whether or not that would satisfy down the road? Because if the amount that we're collecting doesn't match the amount we're supposed to be contributing, because that amount's going to increase over time, then would that be a
No,
problem? At
it's,
some point,
the
would we have
law
to
is
contribute extra?
either or. If you do not have a local property tax, the law says you will contribute 10%, because if you look across Illinois, and that's what they did when they wrote this law, an average tax bill for a municipality across the state, and that's not everybody, is around 10%. And a school district's between 60 and 70 to get to your 100% tax bill. So that's how they came up with 10%. They just didn't pick it out of the air.
No, I get that,
So it's
but I
either
don't
or.
know.
It's either or, quite
Are we
honestly.
sure? Do you have a legal opinion on that? Because I do think that we maybe need a legal opinion on that, because I've been doing my own kind of research, and I'm seeing different answers there. Some
It has been performed in other communities that have had a
Can you
similar.
provide that to us, so
Sure.
we can have that, so we know that going forward? Because well, we did talk about that a little bit, and I guess, like I said, I'm just a little bit, I just would like it confirmed by our council that's, because if that's the case, that's obviously a game changer. It makes things different. I still don't like having a tax, but it's
you're not-
something.
It'll be this board and a future board's option to
That's
do.
right.
And just, and
That's right.
just from like my standpoint, I don't even want that language in here. Like, I just want it gone. And I'll tell you, because what is it doing for us even being here? It's telling us something we already know. We always can impose a tax. That's something that we're able to do no matter what. So putting it in here, and I understand there's new language, and I'm looking forward to seeing what that looks like, but putting it in here does, I think, create an expectation that it is something we will do. And I'm not for that, for any kind of, I just don't think we want to necessarily, connect these two together. Do we want to connect?
Well, I
this
kind of wanted to
subdivision with
connect
this tax? I don't
to
think
moving
I don't want
the
to.
10,005 of the annexation agreement on the RDA. It says 6,000, and at such time the act is amended or a property tax is created, we go back to 10,500. That's kind of why I originally had to need that language to get us in a written document that the developer knows once either amendment or a tax of some kind goes in, then it goes back to 10.5.
Okay, leave it in that part, maybe, to say, in that part where we're talking about the 6,000 and the 10,500, and say, because that is an option, that if you want this to go back up to 10,500, then you've got to, pass it tax. But I just think having this paragraph here just makes it look, I don't like it, and I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it does anything that, other than I think it does make it sound like we've made a decision to pass a property tax, and I don't know that we've made that decision. And even if we did as a board, I don't know that we have any assurance whatsoever that the public would approve it.
And
I think there'd
that's
be a
what
lot,
it's, switching it to May and your sole discretion will do is not guarantee an outcome, because no one can guarantee that kind of an outcome.
I agree. I probably will, I've said this to everyone that I've talked to, that I will be the one no vote on the agreement in general if that language stays in at 4.6A. I want the whole thing
And
removed.
I'd like to say we could remove it completely, trustee, but there is a thing called the developer's note to sell a bond for debt on his end, and it may be something that is needed by bond counsel to demonstrate
Well,
something. So I
If that's the
can't
case, let
answer
us
it
know that.
tonight, but we can look into it
Yeah.
and tell you by next week.
yeah, if that's the case, let us know that. If
Yeah.
this is a requirement by the bond company, then let us know that, because that does obviously change the discussion a little bit.
Mike?
Thinking towards what I think would be a better solution which would be to see if we can get an amendment so esteemed TIF folks, is this just the slam at Schaumburg idea, or is this a slam at some other community that this got leaked in there?
And it's a number of communities across the state that have used the TIF aggressively for redevelopment of their core business areas.
Yeah, but it'd have to be somebody that doesn't have a levy, and there aren't that many of them.
There's not that many. There's the Schaumburg, Vernon
Yeah.
Hills, I
Oak
think,
Brook, or
Austin,
Oak Brook,
Oak Brook,
yeah,
Gurney.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm not aware of the historical
Actually,
basis for that being included in the act. I know it's been in there for a bit.
School districts have a strong lobby
I get
in
it, but-
Springfield.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was what I was gonna say. I assume, I don't know the history either, Carmen.
Okay.
But I assume that if I was a school board member, I would say, this stinks. We have all of our skin in the game, you have no skin in the game.
Gotcha.
The municipalities need to put some skin in the game. 10% is fair, as Mark said. That's kind of normal taxation. And so
Okay, so
I
if
can
we
see
were to-
why they would have a hard time repealing it for you, frankly.
Well, if we were to strategize it, we'd have to come up with a good story and angle that, you know, we're not Schaumburg, we're not Oak Brook, we don't have other means
Right.
that you obviously were
Right,
were
amendments.
looking
right,
towards that.
And amendments typically are very limited in scope. They're limited to a specific community.
Any municipality in
it's-
King County between the
Right.
population of,
Right, so it wouldn't be a change to the legislation overall throughout the state, but it would be specific. It would be a carve-out for the village.
Okay, we've got Dave up there. Go ahead.
Mike, to your point, I can give you an example of an amendment that is within the TIF Act. And when I think you were jokingly saying in Kane County, this or that, it's pretty darn close. So there's one in there currently, the plan for the area restricts the use of the property primarily for industrial purposes. So these are not us, but somebody wrote this into the act or got it written in. You have to be an
Well, it's an
industrial
amendment.
use. The second one is, you have to home rule with a 1990, calendar year 1990 population of between 25,000 and 50,000 people. The municipality is located in a county with a 1990 population of 750,000 people. And the redevelopment project area was established, blah, 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 blah. So you creatively, that is the type of legislation that can be, an amendment can be put in.
I drive by that data center all the time.
Oh. No data centers. All right. Uh-huh.
Learn how to push a button. And I know, Trustee Hossenberger, we spoke, and you were going to have some other hanging chads, and you'll get this to us, and we will also address those. You don't have to list them all tonight.
Okay.
but- So
All right.
if anybody else has issues or concerns,
I will
you know,
bring up
get them
one
to us as well.
Okay. Okay, how about,
Can I do one more,
all right.
quick? I mean, I can wait. Do you want me to do it
I
later?
just want to know, is Jeff still want to speak, and Scott too, or?
They're here if you have specific questions.
Okay.
I asked if they had anything to add, and Jeff did.
Okay, yeah, go
So,
ahead.
just an update, and probably Dave on this one, so an update on what's going on with the sanitary district, because it says here we're going to have a, future agreement that doesn't exist, and I don't believe will exist by next week when we try to approve this. So how do we deal with that going forward? So we're supposed to be approving, do you have a draft agreement or something with them at this point?
There's no draft agreement with the sanitary district at this time. The sanitary district is, and the developer, Shodin, are working on hopefully August 1st is our plan to have a set of building permit plans that would be ready to submit to the IEPA. But in essence, it's the Grand Prairie Sanitary District. I believe with the Mill Creek Water Reclamation District is where it was probably more necessary to have an agreement with them because they were currently they were an active district.
Okay, and then another question about them. One of the financing options is to have them take out a bond?
So that
Is that something, is that,
yes, the two options that we are continuing down the path with would either be the village to issue the bond or the sanitary district issue the bond. in both cases, since in the case of the sanitary district, they don't have any assets per
Okay.
se, and the village has never issued bonds before, either in either case, the security behind that bond would, in essence, be the land that's associated with this, the
With
TIF,
the
with the district.
District, okay.
So the village would not be providing any security or guarantee of repayment of those bonds.
Okay. I do have one more issue that I think the board should all know and then have them answer to it, answer it later for us, but just if I could address it real quick. So the agreement talks about, this cap, but it limits the cap to two things. It limits that 54 million to revenue bonds and developer notes. So, but in terms of what, the TIF is gonna end up paying for, there's a lot more. There's interest, there's gonna be, costs associated with the loans, things like that. So is that cap then just on those two items? So, okay. Because the agreement says it's just on those two. So the 54 million.
So my understanding of the way this is going to work is it's going to take a long time for Dave to incur all the eligible costs and submit documents. So I presume there will be multiple notes issued just on a time series basis alone. So he works for 3 years. He sends us a pile of receipts. We agree that he did TIF eligible things. And you can issue a note. The village can issue a note. So that note is for, let's make it up, $10 million. That note has a face amount of $10 million. It's a promissory note. That's the full name of it. And it's a promise to pay from the increment from Dave's project. And so my understanding is that Shodine wants to then take that own instrument and try to sell it to a third party potentially. They may want to hold on to it. They may want to sell it to someone else. So there's mechanisms. It either goes through this water reclamation district as a sort of a conduit issuer, I think is the term for the role they would play, or it could be just sold via an underwriter. So Dave's in conversations with an underwriter. But then there's a bond buyer or a note buyer. And the note buyer might not give $10 million on a $10 million note. They're going to do their own analysis and say, look, we only think it's worth $7. Like, I guess there's a long way of answering your question by saying there's a lot of uncertainty about exactly the mechanics of it, but your face obligation will not exceed $54 million. That is true. What Dave gets out of it is probably less than 54 if he tries to sell it.
Okay, so,
And to be clear for the public and anybody, this is not a general obligation bond backed by the village. It's the promissory note of the TIF future increment, folks. It's not us issuing a bond debt.
so just, I guess the example that I was looking at was, so if we have, let's say we have, 30 million in revenue bonds, we've got 24 million in developer notes, then would, on top of that, though, I mean, this is my question, so that adds up to the 54 million. So on top of that, if there's like an $8 million IPA infrastructure loan, would that be on top of the 54, or would you want that included in the 54
My understanding is that it's 54 total.
total? Okay,
But
so,
it is plus interest to your earlier question.
and then plus interest, so the
Correct.
interest could be 20 to 25 million.
It could be, it's a negotiated rate.
Okay.
Sometimes we see it written into an RDA, sometimes we see it later, but the market price it depends on when it gets sold, how seasoned the increment is.
So that part is in addition.
The interest is over and above,
Okay.
correct. So the total
So
payments
when we're
would be more than
looking-
54.
So when we're looking at sort of the total dollars, we're talking about, I think you and I talked earlier about around 140 million, we think is the total over time.
That's right.
So then we're gonna take out the 54, and then, potentially 54, and then we would wanna, also take out, or at least account for the interest,
Got it.
just so that we know at the end of the day what we've got left over for all the other things.
Well, and also, don't forget, the TIF law requirement to pay the school district and
Correct.
the library district a portion of that increment as well.
So I'm assuming you have that kind of written out, right? Maybe we could get that from you between now and next week, just a sort of a pro forma kind of what we think the money's going to. Because I'm assuming we also know from expenses we've incurred up until now that will be reimbursed by the TIF, correct? So we should have at least probably a big chunk of that figured out already.
They will be eligible to be reimbursed, but it'll take the board at a future time to say yes to it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anything from Scott or Jeff or Mark? Are you okay? We're all caught up. You were going to say something.
We got a little bit of work to do, Carmen,
Ah.
with Dave, but I think we're very much understanding what you folks want.
Okay, we're going to move on then to 8 additional items from President Trustees Attorney. I think we just covered basically everything. Go ahead, Janet.
I just have one item, and I don't want it to be too personalized, but it does happen to reflect on a particular member of the board right now. We are working on large projects, significant projects, large documents. And if any of us have concerns about any of that vast level of text and detail that we're presented with, then I think we absolutely should be bringing it to our administrator and, and making sure that we're getting answers to our questions. So to the extent that any trustee has concerns or questions about any of the language on any of the documents that we're working on, I think we all should be encouraged to dig deep into all of that. It's just that, as I indicated earlier, I don't feel that during the meeting is the right time to do that. We have the opportunity in the days leading up to the meeting to work with staff and present our concerns, and not just work with
Thank you,
staff,
Dave.
but also to work with each other and present our concerns to each other. And so I feel that a lot of these issues can be surfaced and maybe not answered, but at least we can get the dialogue out in the open before we get here, and have our debate be a little bit more effective. That's my primary concern over whether we find ourselves in the position of effectively redlining a document as a group. Occasionally, we do that type of thing, like when we do budget, right? We're redlining a big document as a group. But generally, we don't, right? Generally, we try and gain consensus, or establish that the consensus wasn't possible, so that I just feel so that the public can follow what we're doing better, if we can bring the issues that came up in our document review up in more of a summary form, because that's how we're going to vote on them anyways. We're not going to go through them line by line anyways. I think it serves everybody better.
Mike?
Okay, I can't help myself. Here's something. I should say congratulations to Jaden Lobliner, St. Charles North graduate, who was drafted in the 9th round by the St. Louis Cardinals.
Oh,
So, yeah,
nice.
it's always good when, I don't know if he lived in town, but I don't care. He went to St. Charles North, so roll stars.
That's it? Therese?
And I guess I'm going to finish by saying I couldn't disagree more. This is a governmental entity, and things are supposed to be done in the public forum. They are supposed to be done in front of the public so that they can hear what's going on. And having all these sideline discussions behind closed doors is not what we are supposed to be doing here. We're supposed to be bringing these issues out in the forums. I don't know how my fellow trustees feel about certain topics. This is my way to find out because of the OMA requirements that we can't do a lot of this other ways. And so I believe what I'm doing is actually exactly what I should be doing as a trustee, which is bringing the issues to the public, doing it in an open forum, making sure that everybody knows what the issues are. They have a chance now, the public gets to know what the issues are. If you're doing all this behind the scenes, how do they know? They're not going to know, and then you just come in with your summaries and say, well, we all agreed behind the scenes, we're going to do it this way. We're supposed to do it like this. It is supposed to be a public process. And I'm going to continue doing it that way, unless or until someone shows me a rule that says I can't.
Frank? Go.
I just want to bring up two other topics. One, the Fox Mill discussion is going to be here tomorrow night at 6 o'clock.
6
You're all
o'clock.
invited if you want to come, but obviously we got to be concerned with meeting standards, but you're welcome to come. Scott's coming, Sam and Travis are coming, so it should be a good meeting. Hopefully, it'll be adult-like and civil, and there won't be a lot of craziness. The second topic is Tim Pierce has agreed to stay on. I think he's done
Oh.
at the end of this month on Finance Committee, so he will need to be reappointed, I think.
Yay,
So
okay.
he's staying
Tracy, I'll
on,
get that.
John's on, Steve's on. I'm
Good.
hoping to get possibly Russ, once he's done here, to join. And I have one other person, so the Finance Committee looks like it's going to be fairly strong.
Nice.
We're going to meet in August to kind of look at this quarter's results and then start planning for budget. The one request they all have is that we do kind of a committee of the whole type format, where the board, it's been done in the past, where the board actually participates with the Finance Committee to create the budget. That way, by the time the budget's due for approval, it's kind of a rubber stamp, because all the hard work will be done by then. So if we can go back to that format, I think everybody would really enjoy it. And it looks like the Finance Committee is going to keep its legacy people, and hopefully we can get some new blood on there as well.
Okay. Thank you, Frank. Good work with the Finance
Excellent.
Committee. That's great. All right. We need to go into closed session. Are we ready? Motion to go into closed session for.
So moved.
Hold on. Appointment, employment. Bye, Drew. Compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees or contractors, or litigation that is filed and pending or is probable or imminent. Moved by Frank.
So moved.
Second by Janet. Roll call.
However.
Are all in favor?
I.
Okay.
No action after, we presume?
We're not going to return to open session afterwards. So everybody knows you just got here. I know.